Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick hurling podcast with your host Mark Kennedy, joined again this week by Kieran Collins and Ruairi Walsh. Lads, how are things?
Good, Mark.
Very good, Mark.
Great. We were supposed to have a Saoirse Bullfin on tonight, but unfortunately tech gremlins got the better of us. So hopefully we'll have Saoirse on next week. I suppose, guys, let's kind of focus in on the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, Leinster Senior Hurling Championship and Joe McDonagh. Reflections on round 2 and then look ahead to round 3. I suppose, Kieran, can we start with yourself? Just in terms of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, I suppose, what kind of stuck out for you last weekend?
I suppose the two games in note, Limerick Tipperary and Clare and Cork. We'll start with Limerick Tipperary. I suppose, look, early in the first half, it was pretty even. There wasn't much between the two teams, and I think that maybe a goal chance that Tipperary might have ruled at that time, maybe 20 odd minutes into the first half. Nicky Quay got on for a very good save. And I think from then the game turned. Limerick knocked on 6 points in a row, and that kind of pushed out the difference between the two teams into half time. And then, second half, Limerick just took over. They went into another gear, and just Tipperary couldn't live with them. I think from that Gillan goal onwards, the rot started for Tipperary, and they did no way back. I suppose the negative coming out of the game for Limerick is, much highlighted during the week, the injury to Peter Casey. First glance, you knew it wasn't going to be good. I suppose in a way, look, there's a lot of injuries in GA and players come off the wrong side of it, but thankfully injuries like this don't seem to happen too often, touch wood, because it's a nasty injury, and best wishes to him, and hopefully get him back in the field next year. But yeah, I think Limerick were just in that second half, like it was like a training match really to them, pushing the game out to 15 points. And I think it probably could have been more, only be for that injury. I think that knocked the stuffing out of him, just to see, I suppose, Peter in the way he was. It allowed Tipperary to click a few scores off at that point. But, I think, look, start of the year, if you were to offer John Kennedy 4 points after the first two games, you take your hand off. And I think last year they probably stop-start and struggled a little bit during the Munster round robin. But, I suppose this year, a good start, and I suppose they are only one win away from more than likely securing another Munster final. There's one part of me, I suppose, that the conspiracy theorists were Tipperary keeping the powder dry as such for this weekend. Like last year, I think they went toe to toe with Limerick, and they give it everything, and finished up in a draw that day. But they went down to face Waterford, and it was like they were spent. They put everything into that game, and they had nothing left for the game against Waterford. I'm just kind of wondering, is it a case where maybe as a panel they decided we possibly won't beat Limerick in the Gaelic ground, so will we, will our championship start the second weekend against Waterford, away to Waterford, and so on. But I suppose the time will tell come Saturday evening if that's the case or not. But I just, like, to me, I've never seen Tipperary as bad. First round of the championship. They're after coming off a warm weather training in Portugal, and you'd expect them being rare and ready to go. And so sometimes it's highlighted where the team coming in fresh maybe have that disadvantage, but they were just a shell of a Tipperary team you'd expect in Munster, and it's just, I suppose, a question mark for me.
Yeah, Rory, get you in there, I suppose. What were your thoughts on that comprehensive win from Limerick?
Yeah, Tipperary were really poor, like nothing short of horrendous in the second half. Like once they actually started okay in terms of, like, they fought hard first 20 minutes or so. Gap kind of looked like it was stretching out at half time, and tip of the breeze in the second half, remember. And I'm sure they weren't too disappointed, like they felt they were still in the game. And then 10 minutes into the second half, they had it back even to 4 points. But the minute the Gillan goal went in, it was white flag being waved. I'm not so sure, Kieran, if they went out with the intention of let's save ourselves, but I think it became like a collective decision from the players once the Gillan goal went in that they weren't going to expend, too much energy getting stuck in or chasing, and it just looked really poor. And I think the warning signs were there from even the league, the way the league game went with Clare and Portlaoise. They looked way off it then. Liam Cahill and Michael Beavens looked very angry in the sideline that day, which kind of showed that Tipperary had a bit of intent with that match. For them to come out like this in Munster Championship against an old enemy one way with Limerick, and the fact they had drawn with them last year and were so uncompetitive this year, it's really worrying. You'd fear for them against Waterford, but the only thing is it's hard to know how good Waterford are either, because Cork were really poor the first day compared to what they produced at the weekend. even Pat Ryan was saying if we'd produced this last weekend, we'd have 2 points on the board, So it kind of tells you how far off Cork were the first day, and they were still thereabouts with Waterford. Again, I wouldn't be ruling them out of beating Waterford either. But if they perform like this, I don't think they have much chance. But they're better. They have to be better than what they showed. One thing when we saw the team the other night, actually last week, we kind of noticed, that he left a lot of experience on the bench at a time in a game where sometimes you need energy coming off the bench. I just felt like that. Like Noel McGrath, Patrick Bonner-Maher, like these were guys to steady a ship in terms of if you're winning coming down the stretch, bit of experience, not chasing a game really. Barry got 2 points off the bench, considering they made substitutes early as well when they were looking for a reaction and looking for a bit of impetus off the bench. I don't know where they go from here. Like it's a short turnaround. They have 6 days to kind of rectify things. And, sometimes it has happened in the Munster Championship. I remember Clare in 2019 took an awful beating in the Gaelic grounds and turned it around a week later by putting up a huge performance against Cork. I suppose that was a Clare team that had kind of been in the Ireland semi-final the previous year and had some bit of, confidence that they could, like Tipperary, where are they going to get this from? Because this bunch of players themselves, especially the newer guys in, like they have had maybe 2 wins now out of their last 9 Munster Championship games. It's worrying where's the confidence going to come from. So that's the biggest thing from a Tipperary point of view, I think, just the uncertainty of where they actually are right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Rory, because it was when I was looking at that Tipperary performance, particularly third and fourth quarter, I said, where are the leaders? I know you had Noel McGrath, Bonner-Maher, Ronan Maher. These guys are beyond reproach. They own nothing to the jersey, but then you're looking for the next leaders to step up. There didn't seem to be anyone really kind of stepping up to the plate here, to be perfectly honest. I thought all the units were under pressure pretty much from minute 25 on. And I mean, it was just a worrying performance. Liam Cahill even came out in post-game, said, look, they're training brilliantly, but when it comes down to the matches, things are not happening. And he's even pointing fingers at some of the player personnel, which can't be good going in here, Kieran, to a game against Waterford and Walsh Park on Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah. Probably it was surprising for him to come out with comments like that. I suppose week 1, teams can have an off day. Maybe there's something more going on in the background there. I suppose the only player that hasn't been included so far is Cahill Barrett. The word is he played for his club last weekend, so you'd expect to see him Saturday night against Waterford once he came out of that game okay. Look, like they went with youth, I suppose, really, like the old guard were on the bench, like Noel McGrath and, Bonner. And I suppose the harsh reality is the chances are a lot of these guys might not be there next year or the year after, and they're going to have to start paddling their canoe with what they have. And while on paper, especially the forward unit looks strong, to me it's consistency. Like we've highlighted this in over weeks gone by, but the likes of Jake Morris, like lacking that consistency what the top intercounty player needs to have to, I suppose, to get their team to the top level. And look, a huge game for Waterford or for Tipperary this Saturday night against Waterford, because you're probably going, like, if Tipperary lose this game here, is that their season over effectively, with 2 losses? Because, I know they have Clare at home, but like, I suppose Clare are at a different level to what the Tipperary team at. So it's a huge game for both teams really, but I think more so for Tipperary. After a loss, you need to react. And I think if that reaction doesn't come, like we saw with Cork last weekend, they put in a good effort, but if that reaction doesn't come, it's very hard to turn it around the third week and make it happen.
Rory, can get you in here from a Limerick perspective. How big a loss is Peter Casey going to be for Limerick down the stretch here?
Oh, we're talking about a guy who was man of the match in the Ireland final. He has that magic, about him. I know you could say, oh, well, Limerick have strength and depth, but you can't. Like, no team can afford to lose players of that talent, like, especially in what is a fairly short season now with the way it's condensed. So, yeah, it's a massive loss, and had been playing really well in the game too. He got man of the match from RTE, and as the pundits went to point out, that this was a decision before he'd even got the injury. They had already spoken about how well he'd been playing in the game and how he'd be a fitting winner. Yeah, and also just in the game, his work rate as well is often isn't spoken about. Like, we associate him with these great scores, but he was fairly, involved in a lot of physical stuff in the match. He really gets stuck in, and that's a real contrast to Tipperary forwards at the minute, because I think back in the day, like even 10, when I say back in the day, like but 10 years ago, you could get away with 2 or 3 workers in your forward line and then 2 or 3, let's say, shooters. Now every forward has to be able to work, and you get found out if they don't. And I think Tipperary still have 1 or 2 what you might call luxury forwards that will shoot the lights out when things are going well. But when you really need them to play in a shift and make that block and chase and win a dirty ruck ball, there's a few of them there that, are like they have to come out and maybe prove us wrong and prove pundits wrong, because everyone kind of saying, where, as Kieran said, where are the leaders? Where's the guy who's going to win that dirty ball? So from a tip point of view, that's what has to be found. But Limerick will be very happy. They were poor. They were very kind of flat, let's say, against Clare for the first 45 minutes. But that energy found at the end, the question was, would they be able to bring it through to this game? And they definitely did. There was a real zip about them. And I think even that was the word John Kiley used afterwards when asked about performance. He used the word energy, and Limerick had that, and Limerick will need it this year because all the talk about a 5 in a row, but it's at the same time, a lot of these guys I know age-wise they're still a young team, but they have a lot of miles in the clock in terms of going to the well time and time again, especially in the round robin last year. To come out with zip and energy especially in the Gaelic grounds, they're really hard to beat there. So I think John Kiley will be very happy with what he saw.
Kieran, Limerick's Hubs bench as well. I know you can't really read much into the performance here, but likes of Adam English chipping in with 4 points when middle third was wide open. O'Dowd again impressive coming off the bench. Graham Mulcahy getting a cameo as well after Peter Casey coming off. So guys were getting valuable game time, and also taking the likes of the Keane Lynches, the Kyle Hayeses off early just to basically freshen them up for the next day. I
think it's probably one of the factors that sets Limerick apart from most other teams is the strength of their bench. In years gone by, I suppose Kiley references the guys that come off the bench and the input they have, and 4 points from Adam English, really, really good performance. Took his scores very, very well, and that's a real sign to Kiley. I want to play. Give me a jersey. And I suppose as well for Donegal Dálaigh, I think he only scored a point, but he's coming on every day scoring, and that's the main factor. I suppose Ruairi touched on Tipperary had 2 points from the bench, but just from them 2 players alone, Limerick had 5. So that's the winning and losing the games. It's the fresh legs coming on and contributing to the scoreline. Seamus Flanagan on the bench obviously didn't feature. Great to see Graham Mulcahy still buzzing around there. He's such a work rate. And look, Peter Casey is going to be a huge loss, and hopefully there isn't any more injuries to add to that list. Over the last 2 years, we Limerick have battled with injuries, like of Sean Finn and Declan Hannon and Peter Casey and Keane this year before. They're big players, and I suppose to still do it without it, but we saw what Peter Casey did in last year's All-Ireland final. The points he scored in the second half were incredible. Same against Cork in 21. He was destined to be man of the match, when he unfortunately went off injured as well that day with the cruciate. So really unlucky with big injuries, and season-ending injuries. And all signs at the minute are really good for Limerick. Young lads champing at the bit to get on the team. And I suppose as the weeks go on, it's a real headache for Kiley and Kinnerk as to who to play. And obviously, there's going to be a jersey up for grabs now with Peter being injured. So it might be a chance for either or the 2 lads to, either Adam or Donegal, to put a name and get a stake in the get a jersey for themselves for the year going forward. Look,
I think I speak for all of us. Wish Peter Casey all the best in his recovery from that ankle surgery this week. Hopefully, he makes a full recovery and back on a hurling pitch soon. I suppose let's switch to Super Value Park of Kiev. Ruairi, you were down there. Clare, Cork, plenty of fireworks. 326, 324. I suppose get your thoughts.
This was an unbelievable game. This was a cracker. And we brought down the under 15 team from 6 Mile Bridge. We played Bishopstown, great hosts beforehand. And I was just thinking afterwards on the way home, some of these lads may not be brought, their families may not be into GA and stuff, but what a game, if that was their first Munster Championship game to go to see, because everything goals, more and more goal chances that weren't taken earlier than the goals that were scored. But saying that, you'd have the impression with the scoreline of 326 to 324 that this was a really open challenge match style game. But there was physical, huge hits in it, real intense. You could see the players coming off the pitch, all even Peter Duggan there, scarred and battered and bruised from both sides. It was a real classic Munster Championship game. Both teams having to win in a sense to reignite their campaign, threw everything at it. And what it turned out to be at the very end, an absolute shootout at the very end, Clare just about hung on. So yeah, look, what can we say? Sometimes for everything goes to the fortune goes to the winners, or all the plaudits go to the winners, as you often say. But Cork could so easily have won that game, and you'd feel for Pat Ryan, because so many times they've come up short just by a point or two. And you're thinking of Alan Connolly's one that just clipped the top of the crossbar. You're thinking of just kind of chances missed, hand pass missed here or there, and how crucial they were in such a tight game. Because Cork now, I think, have lost under Pat Ryan. I think out of 5 of the games they've lost, there's only been 1 point in it. So I think over 5 games, like, it's a 7-point aggregate defeat. So it just shows how close they are. But as we said before, like, it's consistency with Cork, isn't it? Just during the game as well. And these lulls worked so hard to build up a 7-point lead. And Clare scored 1-3 in about 5 minutes, like, and all their work was gone. It was pretty similar to what had happened in Ennis the previous week, except this time it was, Cork at the receiving end and as opposed to Clare. Yeah, saying that though, as we mentioned before, the frailty from the Clare point of view is they cannot put teams away. They were 6 points up with a breeze against 14 men, and you just felt that this was, in true Clare fashion, this was going to come down to like the last seconds of injury time, and so it proved in the end. Thank God they came out the right side of it anyway. But so still, I even though Clare have won now, and a lot of people are kind of foreseeing a Munster final, Limerick Clare again. So I don't know. I'm just worried that Clare will always give chances to the teams they're against. Even Waterford up in Ennis, if Waterford come up there 2 wins in a row, Davy will have a massive point to prove against his old foe Lohan up in Ennis. So like, that's not a foregone conclusion. And then going down to Thurles, I agree with Kieran. Like, looking at all form will tell you that Clare will be a stronger team than Tipperary, but like, Clare will just give Tipperary a chance. If Clare up 10 points in that game, I would not be confident that they still won't come down to a bucket of ball at the end, because they have to really learn how to put teams away. I just last thing I'll say before I pass back over to Kieran is, there was one moment we were up 6 points and John Conlon had the ball coming out, nobody on him. For some reason, this is an experienced player, just kind of went to pop a pass to Cathal Malone, who he's back to the play. Cathal Malone kind of got swamped, possession turned over, throw in, and 30 seconds later the ball's in the Clare net and Cork are back jumping around again. And sometimes small things like that, I know it's only one moment in a game, but delivery into the full forward line there, get the ball into the Cork where they were in big trouble at the time, go for the jugular really. It's just something that they're missing.
Kieran, get you in there, I suppose, get your thoughts on this Clare win, some stand-up performances. I think Peter Duggan must have been listening to the podcast last week. It was a very prominent performance from the Clooney Quinn man. He scored 2 points, but my God, like, dominant in the air, work rate, sensational. Mark Rogers with 1-6. So, look, I think Shane O'Donnell haunts Cork again with his goal as well. So, look, plenty of positives here for Clare, Kieran.
I think the 3 names you just named there would be the 3 names at the top of my list as well for that game. How Shane O'Donnell can come in cold into a championship, obviously he got the league final, but, really, really impressive. Created that goal very well, and, Rogers having a really good season. And, it's what we all saw how good he potentially had maybe 2 years ago, and, he's really making hay now. Impressive. Like, I suppose when Cork went 7 points up, you're thinking, right, let's see what you're made of now, Clare. And as Rory said, like, they ate back into that lead very, very quick. I think a lot of Cork supporters were thinking, this is it, we're starting to roll now. But, Clare had them back to a point within a couple of minutes, and it was a 13-point swing in that second half essentially. Look, I was impressed with Cork's. I suppose they turned up with a fight in them, something we may not have seen in a lot of games. I think last week they really failed to impress against Waterford, but there was a lot of fight in the team. They made a couple of changes. The old dog for the long road, Pat Horgan, scoring 2-10. And he's, people might say he's this or that, but really impressive scoring. And the first goal, the little flick, like, great hands, and not many, I suppose, forwards in the game would see that. But the harsh reality is, like, I think they're all but out. Their fate lies in results elsewhere. And, like, if Waterford get a win, they go over Tipperary this weekend, to me they're as good as out, because Waterford will have them on the head-to-head. There'll be a lot of soul searching again this year in Cork, I think. Will Pat Ryan go into year 3? Very hard to see it happen. You'd look at over the 2 years, have they improved? The answer is no, they haven't. They probably regressed for me a little bit. Will the likes of Horgan and Hannity be there next year? I suppose it's decisions they'll have to make, but there's a lot of surgery required in this Cork team. When you go, about setting a team up at the start of the year, you need to get the spine right, and the fact you're chop changing a full back for me isn't good. Joyce is probably their household centre back, but you need your 3, 6 and up the centre of the field, and Cork don't have that. I think going forward they need to stick. I think probably Owen Downey is probably the man. I think he was impressive and when the time he was on the field, but one thing they need to is fix on a full back and work on it and build with him going forward. look, Cork have an array of talents, a lot of forwards, maybe too many to pick from. But while I was impressed with with the fight they showed, and obviously the pressure was on this week, they still lost the game. They've 2 losses from 2. They're playing for pride from now on and for the rest of the championship, and it's going to be a long summer in Cork and winter to follow. And I suppose all the word is that Ben O'Connor could be the next man in line to take charge on the ladder. And while the players are there, it's still no easy task for him if he does get the job to try and turn this Cork team around, because I think mentally they're going to be very frail.
Rory, get you in here. I mean, I think, Kieran, you've summed it up quite well in terms of defensive problems. 31 points round 1, 35 points leaked in round 2. Don't have to be a mathematician. That sort of score concession is not going to win you many championship games. And I think Kieran has probably hit nail on the head here. Despite it, the team really needs to be refocused on again in Cork.
And even like Kieran Joyce looked really impressive going forward, but as Kieran pointed out, Mark Rogers scored 1-6 off him. I think maybe that Cork need to be, maybe if they put a marker on Rogers and let Joyce have a free roll at centre back, call it sweep or call it what you will, and have him maybe driving forward from there, because he's a serious man to come onto off the shoulder, as he did a couple of times, and carve clear open. But for your centre back, the first priority has to be defensive duties, holding your back line together. And I just felt like that Clare had the upper hand there with Duggan and one wing, Mark Rogers in the centre especially. And then David Reedy as well popped up for 4 points in the second half as well, just kind of like popping up everywhere, like he had a complete free roll in the Clare forward line and caused a bit of carnage, because Cork didn't really know whether to follow him around or whether to kind of pick him up zonally. But you're right though about full back, like it's a big issue. Like Damien Cahalane had never nailed down that place for me over the years, and the fact that they should have stuck with Owen Downey, I think, from the start this year, and just kind of even if it's a case of just getting experience there, he did fine. Like Shane O'Donnell is going to cause problems. I thought he did as well as he could have, considering some of the ball that was going in, really hard to defend out the field as well. Like again, kind of we spoke about the inconsistency in Cork forwards. I thought Harnedy showed up well. Now they took him off. He had 3 points from play scored, and I think it was because they were down an extra man in the forwards with the red card. So when they rejigged things, they were forward down, and they probably just felt that he wasn't going to cover as much ground as maybe fresh legs coming in. And to be honest, it was kind of that impact off the bench that I thought for Cork. Like Mark Coleman came in and had very little effect in the match. When you saw who they were bringing in, like you're looking Mark Coleman, Robbie O'Flynn, Luke Meade, Shane Kingston, and even Cahalane to come in wing back on Duggan at that stage, just to try and stop Duggan catching ball. But you're kind of looking, they're big names coming in for Cork. Jar Mellerick as well. Well, he was only just kind of came in as a blood sub really, but you're kind of thinking like these guys going to have a real effect in the game, especially Kingston in the past. And the only one to score was Kingston at a point, and like Mark Coleman, very little effect. Like, so I think subs bench didn't really help Pat Ryan in a game like where needed impetus, needed energy, and what was an absorbing game. I was just thinking as well, like the Cork fans, they have massive support. Like again, huge crowd down there, and I think the fact that the players, like you could say, gave everything, like none of them are not going to go again the next day, if you know what I mean. I think it's different if you go to support your team and you feel like, like maybe some of the Tipperary fans would probably feel like, geez, what's the point when the players seem to down tools? Cork cannot be accused of that anyway, because everything was going against them. 14 men, as we said, 6 points down, and yet that day Cahalane, the shot blocked by Rogers of all people at the end, was the difference at the very end. Yeah, I give huge credit to Cork, because, and that's the hope you'd have for Tipperary in one way, is that Cork could turn things around. I know they didn't get the win, but like from week to week, they were able to like put in a huge performance, because Tipperary need to do that now. And it might, if they're looking for inspiration from somewhere, they might get it from there.
Just want to jump in on one of your points, Rory. Are Cork too attacking sense then? Like if you look at their wing back, centre back, like Joyce likes to get the field, you compare him to others, what they call them, sitting sixes now, but you compare him like to Hannon or Conlon, like they don't necessarily, they'll try and hold and protect the house as opposed to moving forward. But even looking at their wing backs like Tim O'Mahony, Rob Downey, they all like to get forward. And I'm wondering is there too much expectation on their wing, on their half back line to get forward? Maybe if there was more of a defence mindset, that it might bode them better in games, because as I said, they're leaking big scores. I suppose their full back line isn't the safest. But when Cahalane is there, especially, I think he's seen as their weak link in that full back line when he plays. And is there too much emphasis on players to attack? Even Mark Coleman, when you see him wing back, it's the same type of player, like, to get forward. And like Cork's attack starts in their half back line to me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, definitely so. And even like you say something if you had two defensive-minded midfielders, but Darragh Fitzgibbon is another attacking player as well who loves to race forward and can cause problems for teams as well. So the balance seems a bit wrong there. If they had maybe like it's horses for courses when Rodgers was at 11, maybe put especially with the way Rodgers had started the game, put maybe Mellerick in there as a marker and let Joyce just kind of sit back. Still drive forward at times, but at least he'd be back in the cover and could offer some cover in front of Shane O'Donnell as well, because both teams were leaving their full back line 2-2 inside. But it's people talk about not playing with a sweeper. I see Dermot McGrath recently claims every team are playing a sweeper.
But yeah, it's essentially is a sweeper. Sitting six is like your
but Clare and Cork did not like. That's what I'm saying. They were that was one game where two teams just like basically went old days gung ho. Now they had 6 forwards at all times. One might have been floating around you, 2 inside, but they didn't drop a sweeper as such. And maybe I'm saying Cork probably should have in hindsight, or definitely pick up Rodgers.
What's the view on Sean O'Donoghu's red card?
For me, I'm not just saying it's a bias thing. Maybe the first yellow was the harsh one. I thought the second one was a definite yellow. He stepped across. There was no need to do it. That's my point. Was it was a silly one, from the player's point of view. After what had happened the previous week, it must have been said, guys, if you're on a yellow card, just don't do anything silly. Like he definitely checked O'Donnell, and there was no need. O'Donnell, I don't think was ever going to get to Collins. It was a silly one, really. Now he'd hardly broken, and he probably just kind of felt like he just saw him coming, and it was instinct before he had time to think that he just happened so quickly. But I'm sure he regretted it. But yeah, maybe the first one. But when the first one is given, you just have to be careful. At that stage as well, Clare were already back to that free, put them level. So if that happened when Cork were 6 points up, you'd say it was a massive error. But I think it actually slowed Clare's momentum for the next 10 minutes. It was a bit tit for tat until the next goal went in, until the second goal went in. Yeah, but Cork were pretty wasteful in terms of goal chances, especially in the first half, to go in without a goal after the 2 or 3 chances near the end of the first half that they had, would really have annoyed Pat Ryan, I suppose. Especially playing with the breeze, because the breeze was strong down there. I don't know if it was strong to get the grounds, but it was second half as well. It even picked up more while Clare had it. The lead at half time never looked big enough, and I know they got the best start to the second half by going out to 7. You just felt like if Clare could get anything going at all, with the breeze was going to be a factor. So it proved in a way as well as a red card. It was a lot of things in one way. Clare needed things to go their way, and they finally, I suppose, had a bit of fortune in one way. From the previous week, I suppose a couple of calls in terms of, the square balls didn't go their way. But this time, things like that, playing the breeze picking up, Cork missing those chances, crossbar and so on. They had that bit of luck you need. And as we said, they're right back in it now, and I'm sure Lohan is, in a much happier place than he was this time last week.
Can we just have a prediction? Waterford's tip Saturday evening in Walsh Park. Who are we tipping here, guys? Kieran?
It's one of them games. It's hard to call. It's probably shit like glass the pot for both teams. I suppose Davy, well, he has topped up the judges on championship. It's not just one game. There's 4 games, and having the week off will definitely suit them. They put everything into that Cork game, and they had an extra week to charge the batteries and go again. The Tipperary has said, I do think that there's more in them. They're not as bad a team as that. I think Tipperary's probably struggles is they have the bare 15, and it's maybe the bench impact they don't have or won't have. I can't see them being as bad again. I don't think there's going to be much in this game. I think Tip will, down to Walsh Park, they're going to give everything. But I liked what I saw from Waterford against Cork. Tight to work and Prunty back in, added them, the extra bit of defensive, just to have tight to work there. I think it's just a mindset thing. Just he's really good distributor of the ball, and he's just, they're just, while Prunty probably isn't the best hurler, it's just 2 big men, as they're swinging at the back. And I suppose Jamie Barron as well, that asked if he can carry on that form. So I think for me, a slight tip to Waterford, but I don't think there's going to be much in the game.
Yeah, Rory, get you in there. Who are you tipping on Saturday?
I can't see past Waterford here. I just think, as Kieran said, strength and depth or whatever with Tipperary. I think if you put both teams side by side, you'd choose Waterford in terms of talent to have, Desi Hutchinson inside, Caelan Lyons just with Jamie Barron back as well. I think the big players tied to Burka, they've come back for Davy at the right time. Again, you would not, it is Munster Championship, Tip have everything to prove now. In fact, both managers really are Davy still is not out of the woods here, because if they lose here to Tipperary, it's very hard to see Waterford qualifying. Yeah, I think if Tip lose as well, I think Liam Cahill will probably be finished after this. So Tipperary, yeah, it's a massive game. And who would have thought, like everyone was saying at the start, the Clare Limerick game first round is so big, and then it was Clare Barkham. This is a huge one because this essentially knocks the team out. It's the first game really that you could see Tipperary, if they lose, they're in massive trouble. Like I know it's mathematically they'd still be in it, but
you'd be thinking whoever wins this game will finish third. That'd be the way you're thinking.
Well, it also brings Cork back into it as well if Tip win, because Cork can go to Thurles and win. So it's a crucial game in terms of if Waterford win, it's beginning to look then like Limerick, Waterford, and Clare need one win out of the last two. Then you'd say to join Waterford. Yeah, so it's taken on a huge importance, this game, and I just feel Waterford have a bit more, and like Tipperary, the ones who have it all to prove. Waterford have proved a point in the first match. They have that home advantage again. Their record, though, in Munster Championship, as we know, is dismal. Gone through round robins. I remember a couple of years ago they beat Tipperary in the first match as well, and that was the only game they won. So this year they've beaten Cork in the first match. So can Waterford follow up and win 2 round robin games in a row? They haven't done it yet. I know you could say, well, they beat Waterford or beat Tip last year in the last game and beat Cork this year. That's 2 in a row. Well, 2 in the same season they haven't done. For Davy's point of view, if they can do that, they'll have one foot in the qualifying out of the Munster Championship. I think they'll have enough.
I think for Tipperary and for the sports going down there, this Tipperary team have to deliver a performance of fight, determination. I'm looking at 3 guys here on my notepad here: Conor Stakelum, Cathal Barrett and Barry Heffernan. Any of those 3 guys are not lining up next Saturday, I think Tipperary are done. I heard Cathal Barrett had twigged a hamstring a few weeks ago. But as you said here, Ruairi, if he was playing for Holy Cross Ballyhal last weekend, then he will be on the bench. But I think these 3 guys have to be brought in. Alan Tyne in the midfield. There's so many positional switches here that Liam Cahill has to basically implement. I think even goalkeeper Rhys Shelley, great distributor of a ball here. I think the puck out was dismantled by Limerick against Tip last weekend. So I think everything kind of points to Waterford, but I suppose Davy Fitz came out of TUS Gaelic grounds not knowing what Tipperary team is going to show up on Saturday, and I think Liam Cahill definitely would have a revenge mission given how things finished in Waterford as well. I mean, his second year in Tipperary, the kind of trends here between Waterford and Tipperary potentially are very early similar now in terms of the lack of performance here. So look, I think Cahill, Michael Bevins, it's all on the line for them. It's all on the line for the likes of the Ronan Mars, the Bonner Mars, the John Noel McGraths here. Lost on Saturday night, and I think Tipperary are in a complete rebuild mode. So, look, I might go for a draw here. I think Tipperary have an awful lot to fight for here. If they don't, then, look, I think, to be fair, it's end of the road for this team. So, look, it should be an entertaining game. I suppose, guys, Leinster Hurling Championship. Kieran, I know you made the long travel up to Corrigan Park, Belfast. Suppose, can we get your viewpoint? A magnificent win for Antrim, determination, leadership, plenty. What's been the viewpoint down on Wexford after that 2-point loss?
Actually, the mood has been bad, Mark. I suppose the fact that Wexford went 7 points up early into the second half. There wasn't much between the 2 teams in the first half. Antrim, I suppose, they brought a spirited performance, but it was really, I suppose, the 4th quarter is where we saw it. Like, when Wexford went 7 up, Antrim rallied, and it wasn't the goals to get them back into the game. They scored 5 points in the trot to close the gap down to 2. They had a goal disallowed for square ball, so like they could have been a third. And then 2 goals in the space of, was it 5 minutes? James McDonagh was central to both goals, just running down the heart of Wexford defence. It's definitely the first one. He shouldn't have got into that position to give the pass of the ball to Sean Elliott. Just, I suppose, for Wexford, it's disappointing. It's one man in the forward line the last 2 weeks, like Lee Chin, scoring 211 again. He can give no more. I think Keane Byrne showed with 4 points. I think he had 3 wides as well, so he was getting chances. To me, the rest of the forwards not contributing enough. Like, the forward line contributes to, or should contribute to, more tackles nearly than the defence, and that's work rate you see from the likes of Lee Chin and Keane Byrne. We're not seeing it from Conor McDonald, and a couple of silly decisions where there was a sideline one and he retaliated and it was a free given against it. That's a point for Waterford. Little things like that add up into a game. But it really needs a big performance this weekend to compared to last week to turn it around. But look, as I said, that 4th quarter, Antrim were sublime. Like they went up 2 years and Wexford didn't know how to stop them. They ran all over them. They scored from all over, from great points from Elliott's midfield, and Niall McKenna did that Jared Walsh sideline, to basically the winning point. Like, it was an unbelievable point. 4 points from wing back, really incredible. He's only back from injury as well, so really spirited Antrim. And look, they were like, to see the crowd after, like, I was probably questioned the number of Antrim supporters there, but it meant so much to them. They're a team over the last couple of years who were happy with performances, but now they've got a result, put them in a very good position. Like, they play Dublin next weekend. If they can get a result against Dublin, they'll be on 4 points with Carlow to play in the last game. It puts them in a great position to advance in one of the last three, if not be one of the two in the Leinster final. But look, hats off to them. It was a great result for them. It means a lot up there.
Ruairi gets you in here. I suppose from an Antrim perspective, Darren Gleeson post-game was at pains to say that it was a week of hurt, week of having to deliver a performance given what happened in Nolan Park and the season that they've had in the league. And I mean, they came out in spades. And I mean, for Wexford, this was a very uncomfortable performance from minute one. Lee Chin's opening half penalty, there was a bit of touch controversy about that. So I know from an Antrim perspective, the questions were asked and they came through with flying colours, particularly at the end.
Yeah, like they'd been in this position before, round robin games up in Corrigan Park. It was possibly there for them. Moral defeat, let's say, where just fell short. But this time, in fairness to them, when they smelled blood, like they got the job done this time. Yeah, I'll go back as well to Kieran mentioned it, that moment the Antrim cut in along the end line, and I think it was Damien Reck had a chance to just even hold him up. He went to kind of hit him a shoulder out over the end line. Just get in front of him, hold him up. If you can see the free, you can see the free. Because at that stage, that goal really brought Antrim back into it. I thought Wexford had kind of done all right up there. They seemed to like weathered a bit of the storm and were doing fine at that stage. They looked like they were just getting a grip in the game, but that goal ignited Antrim. And I'm sure if he could go back in time, like Damien Rick, he'd stand him up, he'd stand in front of him, he'd cut him off, possibly give away a free. Letting him through at that stage was a bit criminal. Lee Chin was outstanding. Like keen burn as well for a young lad, as Kieran pointed out, kind of first year in the scene. He took the fight to him. Like Rory O'Connor, who'd be a more established forward, just a bit disappointed. If he played anywhere near his best, like it might have been enough just to have a second big scorer in there, like with Lee. Yeah, it at the start, we build, and on our preview night, we built Wexford and Dublin as like the third place playoff, which was a bit unkind. Now it's Antrim versus Dublin seems to be the third place playoff, unless Wexford can, beat Galway and get themselves back into it. But I'm sure like Roster would have thought, looking at the fixtures, that they want to be 4 points on the board after the first two rounds, and to only have 1 point now really puts them like in a really difficult position. Yeah, Antrim will be buoyant going playing Dublin. Even in the last few rounds they played them in the league, and in Championship there's been nothing really in it, and they have to really follow up this performance, because just one big performance in the Championship, it's not good enough really. If they can do it once, they can do it again, and they need to really now make an effort to try and get themselves a great chance of getting into that third place spot.
I mean, the next game we're going to review here is Galway Kilkenny in Pearse Stadium, Salt Hill, and I mean, Kilkenny missing so many first team regulars here, Kieran. I counted at least 6, but I mean, Derek Ling must be exceedingly happy in terms of the performance here. Squad depth showed up. We saw the evolution here of likes of Martin Keohane, John Donnelly complementing TJ Reid, and I suppose they were pretty disappointed not to come away from Pearse Stadium with the 2 points.
I think the fact that Galway hit 6 of the last 8 scores to level it up, but I think that was Kilkenny's game. Kilkenny led from pillar to post at that stage. I suppose earlier in the week you'd be thinking, where the score is going to come from, but I said Mossy Keohane stepping up at 4 points, John Donnelly the same. I think John Donnelly has really turned a bit of a corner this year. The last maybe year or so we've known him for his performances and his work rate, but scoring wise, the last day, and again this against Galway the same, scoring 4 points. Keane Kenny and Tom Phelan getting up for 3. This Galway are failing to impress me at the minute. That's a game they should be winning, and winning comfortably. And I think it's a mental thing now, where I'm sure Shefflin was using that bait to, this is Kilkenny, we have a chance to beat them, and because the chances are they are going to play in the Leinster final again. I know some might say there's an element of shadow boxing in this game every year, but credit Kilkenny. We've said it week on week that Kilkenny, whatever game they play or whoever they play, like they bring that fight and they bring that work rate and energy, and look, it does get them a lot of the way there. And I think it shows, doesn't matter what person enter in the field, they give it their all. And I suppose we've seen that on Saturday. Look, I think Galway were probably lucky in the end to snatch a draw. Now I suppose they will take credit themselves from from doing that, from hitting the last 6 of 8 scores to get level. For me, like Galway are this year, it's hard to know what way they're, how good they really are. They're going to be in for a stiff test against Wexford. I think Wexford they're wounded, like they're going to be a serious fight back, I would expect, this week, and I suppose it'll be a test that will maybe show how good they are, or if they are kind of only tipping along like they have been. It's hard to put them up as Ireland favourites, or maybe top 3 or 4 at the minute where they're playing.
Yeah, Rory, get you in here. Can you solve the Galway conundrum here? I was at the game on Sunday. Not a lot of locals are scratching their head here in terms of particularly middle third. On paper, this looks like a phenomenal middle third unit here, but things are not really clicking here for Galway. Do you have any answers?
Well, I just find over the last couple of years, now this could be very harsh criticism, but it looks like Galway are kind of relying on individual talent. Like Cathal Mannion will go out and score 5 points from play. Conor Whelan might score. Like they're relying on a couple of individuals turning in massive performances. But like sometimes then I just feel like they don't play as a team as much as, let's say, like Limerick, for example, or even Kilkenny, where it's all about the team and the unit. They just seem a bit individualised in certain ways. Like they rely maybe Conor Cooney shooting the lights out one day and stuff. I don't know. That's just the sense I have about them. Could be wrong. Like I just feel that the forward line especially don't play together as a team as much as the other teams. From a Kilkenny point of view then as well, like the half-hour line outstanding, like Martin Keown, 4 points from play, Donnelly, 4 points, Tom Phelan, who we hadn't seen a lot of at all during the league, came in, scored 3 points from play. But again, the worry would be just inside. Luke Hogan again had a poor out and didn't score, substituted after 42 minutes. Billy Ryan, he's fast becoming like one score Billy, just the 1 point again inside. And he's got so many chances. You're just hoping one day that he'll put 2 performances together and nail down a place. Because in fairness, I don't think any player has got as many chances as Billy Ryan. TJ Reid then as well, scoring prowess last year. We mentioned a couple of times from play, just a 1 point from play. So you had your half-hour line contributing 11 points from play, and your full forward line contributing 2 points from play, which is a strange. Usually it's the other way around. But I suppose, look, you are missing Cody Mullen, but it is probably that question for Kilkenny all the time, and Ling especially, is just getting that 6, having that danger inside in the full forward line, a real threat in there. I just feel that without Cody especially, they're kind of lacking there. But overall, Kilkenny I thought were good for this win. Galway were the ones that kind of got out of there with a draw, if you know what I mean. They were the lucky ones who were a bit luckier to draw, and that doesn't say a lot for Galway really, considering who Kilkenny were missing. Home advantage, having a point to prove, everything else was set up for a Galway win here, but they just weren't good enough to get it done. I agree with Kieran in that they probably would fancy meeting them again in the Leinster final, and maybe that is the day to deliver the big performance, is the Leinster final, and this might work out as maybe a stick to beat them with in training over the next few weeks. It'll refocus minds, and if Shefflin needs to remind them that they're not as good as they think they are, well, this performance will definitely show them that.
No, I have to give kudos as well to Tallis, the Kilkenny goalkeeper debutant, ahead of Dean Mason. Thought it was a good performance, and he had to show his battle there as well, particularly that Brian Kincannon goal. Could have rattled an awful lot of debutant inter-county goalkeepers, but look, he produced some stunning saves. So I think for Derek Ling, look, it was a good outing. He learned an awful lot in terms of squad depth. For Galway, I think, they're going to have to just try to kind of solve these cohesion issues here, because it is fairly damaging anyway. I suppose, guys, quickly, Carlo Dublin, talked to a few Dublin lads at work, and to be perfectly honest, palpable relief would be the statement of the year for Dublin after this, Kieran. I mean, Carlo, dominant first half, only 4 points up at the break. Dublin kind of readjusted, but this square ball, this Whiteley goal, I mean, it's an outrageously poor decision from the match officials here, and really did turn the game in Dublin's favour.
That was the turning point of the game. Carlo were the better team by far, especially in the first half, racking up, I think it was a 16 points first half. Marty Kavanagh really on fire, scoring 13 points. John Nolan coming with 3. Really good performance from Carlo. They're a big physical side. They love winning the aerial ball. Not many sharp puckouts, just drive it down and win their own ball. And they were a better team. That, I suppose, unlucky that Conor Keogh had a good goal chance saved by Sean Brennan, and that really could have put pressure on Dublin at that stage if that goal had came. But look, that Dublin goal had really fortuitous for Dublin, and that was the turning point. And I suppose at that point Dublin racked off a few late points to see it out. But really, really good performance to Carlow again. I'm sure that 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time, that they are gonna like to see Wexford coming to Netmark Cullen Park, and the way Wexford have played the first 2 games, they would be fancying themselves in that game.
Do you fancy Carlow to produce an upset here in the Leinster Championship?
Well, if they beat Antrim, would that be much of an upset? I don't know, because from where Carlow were coming from, I suppose, with their league performances, any win in the Leinster Championship would have been an upset going in. But they just showed here, like, when they're at their best, especially down in Carlow at a home game, they are, a tough team to beat. And let's not forget, like, they did go up to Salt Hill the week before and they put in a good performance against Galway and hung in there for a long time as well. So they backed that up here. Dublin, like, for me, still not convinced with them. Like, they should have been beaten down in Wexford last week. Every chance could have been beaten here as well. Like, they're very fortunate to be 3 points in one way. It's hard to see them. I know last year from nowhere then they produced this first half performance against Galway. Hard to see that coming this year. Donald Burke back playing. He still hasn't hit the heights of last year. Just 8 points from frees, out of 9. Whereas last year, he was scoring 4 or 5 points from play in games. Sutcliffe is going well this year. Won some important ball at times there when they were in trouble. And Owen O'Donnell back as well. Like, they are probably at their strongest at the minute, and I think that's what will worry Micheál Donoghue. Like, this was more or less the strongest teams he could put out with Chris Crummy, O'Donnell, Burke, Ronan Hayes, all these lads, Cian O'Sullivan, Sutcliffe, and yet, like, they really struggled. And as you said, that square ball decision, was crucial in it, and the chance, the great save Brennan made as well. So Carlow could have won this game, like, and it's not kind of fantasizing by saying that, like, it was there for Carlow as well. And maybe Carlow are a bit like Antrim. It might take 1 or 2 of these close defeats to realise, like, hey, we should be winning these games and we have a chance. Yeah, Dublin, hard to know. I'll give Antrim every chance against them at the minute. They need serious improvement if they're, going to have any impact on the championship. But for Carlow to get another win, like, it could happen. As Kieran said, they will be really targeting Wexford coming to town. Wexford team may be fragile in confidence unless they can put in a huge performance against Galway and, turn things around. Carlow might be, really targeting that one. So, yeah, look, at the start, the Leinster Championship was far from the foregone conclusion we all thought it was. It's turning out to be a lot more competitive and interesting than we would have put it down for a pre-tournament,
Those guys, Wexford, Galway this weekend on Saturday in Chadwicks Park, Wexford. Save our season, I suppose, Kieran, for Wexford. Do you fancy Wexford to do a job in Galway and keep their season alive?
Yeah, I'd expect a big performance. I expect a couple of changes from the team that started last weekend. But I think performance, first of all, I look at it, Galway are, while we've been slating them there for the last couple of minutes, they're still a formidable team. They're still hard to beat. I'd probably tip Galway just because they're, the scoring prowess they have, like likes of Manions and Conor Whelan and Conor Cooney on Cannons. Like, it's not like Wexford where they rely on Lee Chin a lot of days to come up with scores. There'll be a spread of scores in Galway. Gavin Lee, I thought he's improved this year. Has a goal a game for the last 2 games as well. So they'll bring a lot more threat than what Dublin and Antrim bought. Based on form, you would have to say Galway.
Yeah, Rory, get you in there. Who are you tipping on Saturday in Wexford Park?
Yeah, I go along with Kieran there. I just think Galway probably have a bit more, firepower in terms of, like, players scoring. Like Mannion, as we mentioned, like, can turn on John Burner and score 5-6 points from play in a match. Like, and Whedon with the goal threat inside, whereas Wexford at the minute, like, if Galway will be just looking at, I'm sure Sheff will be looking at getting his best man marker on Lee Chin, trying to nullify Chin's impact. And if that happens, like, who's going to step up for Wexford? And I'm sure Wexford management, Keith Rossiter, will be talking to the rest of the forwards and basically trying to get more of an impact. If Chin is held, like, who will step up? And that's the question he'll be asking, who are the leaders in this team? Because Wexford need to show leadership now. And a win here, like, remember, like, there's only 2 rounds played here, and a win here will throw Wexford back in the mix big time again. Not all lost, like, and I'm sure there's a lot of doom and gloom for Wexford supporters, those that went up to Antrim, the long journey home, and those watching Jay go at home, like, thinking that's it now, we're gone. But things can turn around very quickly and momentum can swing back again. But it's just hard to look past Galway. Just they have been that more consistent team over the last few years. I'm sure Shefflin will see this as we spoke about a home game against Kilkenny, but if you go down to Wexford and get an away win as well, like, that really is a statement victory. So yeah, in that sense, I'll just give Galway. But again, I think it's going to be tight, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Wexford are leading for long periods of this game here. maybe Galway just outshoot them at the very end, something like that, to be honest. So yeah, tentative tip for Galway.
Yeah, I think Wexford look backs against the wall. I think they have to come out fighting here a little bit. Particularly leadership straight through the spine of the team. Leachin has been delivering it. Keen burn, but I think there's going to be onus here for an awful lot of guys here, particularly middle third to really step up here. Galway haven't had the best record down in Chadwick's Park in recent years either. So, I mean, if Wexford can get on the front foot early, put a few scores up, I think that'll be the key. I think Galway, it'll be an interesting just to see team selection wise. What do they do with Conor Cooney? Is he a full forward? Is he centre half forward? Is he drifting out middle third? I think that's going to be intriguing. I don't see Wexford losing this game, guys. I think there's too much on the line here for Keith roster management and the players here. I think there's a big performance here. I'm probably going to edge it to Wexford just purely because a loss here, season's pretty much done, and probably looking over the shoulder a little bit at a relegation battle. So look,
the only thing I would say, Mark, is I suppose if you look back to last year when the chips were down, that last game against Kilkenny to win to stay in Leinster, and they really put out a performance. So it can be there. I suppose it's just to get it out.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes they play better against the bigger teams than the teams, not weaker teams, but against the likes of Antrams and I suppose Westmeath over the last 2 years. They seem to perform better against the likes of Galway, Kilkenny.
I would expect Ruairi O'Connor and Conor McDonagh particularly. I suppose they've been kind of getting a bit of it down below in Wexford, in terms of their lack of attacking output. I think they need to come to the party pretty much. Seamus Casey, if he is playing, I think he had a great league. I think there is talent there. I think Keith Roster and the management will definitely deliver a game plan to match. I suppose, guys, Joe McDonagh, what stood out for you round 2 here, Kieran?
I think for me, Laois, okay, albeit they're playing Meath, they're probably seen as the minnows in the group, but to score 729, massive score, 13 scores. They actually also had 18 wides as well, so they created 60 scoring chances in the game, which is nearly a shot a minute, which is crazy. 5 of the 7 goals coming in the second half, so really it was really putting it to Meath. And I think that game this weekend, the Kerry travelling down to Tralee to play Kerry. You'd imagine, if they can get the win there, they'll have 1 foot in that Joe McDonagh final.
Yeah, Rory, get you in here. What's the for you in round 2?
Offaly's win. Puts them right back in. Whoever lost that game is effectively out. I think Westmeath now, they're going to need a couple of things to go their way and other results to get themselves back into final here. So, and Kerry as well, I suppose, kept things on the road. 2 wins out of 2. Down, again, Buff Egan, in fairness, gave us a lot of highlights of this game. And Down were well in it, missed a few chances when they were just a point ahead, and the red card had a massive impact in that game. And in fairness to Kerry, they saw it out. And now, sitting pretty 2 wins out of 2, and this is a big game because home advantage gives Kerry a chance here against Laois. Are a difficult team to beat down in Tralee. Laois are flying though. It is probably the game of the round, to be honest. Yeah, I'd give Laois the nod there, but just based on the massive scores they're putting up, and Kerry will have it all to do to keep them at bay here. But at the same time, they did surprise Westmeath away. You couldn't really write them off yet, and it would be, it's a great job being done here by Malumphey, a player turnaround, and just looking at even through the bits we've seen of Kerry this year, Lachlan Gales have got a gem there, and Fionn Mackesy, he's serious hurler at 6, and we joked at the start of the year about whether if he has a big season for Lachlan Gales, will there be a phone call in from Kilkenny, and could easily happen. He looks a serious operator. Yeah, having the likes of him in your team will always give Kerry a chance. Shane Conway as well still isn't featuring at the minute, so they're doing this without their talisman up front. Saying all that, the way Laois are going at the minute, you just could not predict against them at the minute in the Joe McDonagh. So I think they'll just come out of it in what's probably the tide around.
That Dahi Sands red card was the change in that game, was it? It was level at half time, and Kerry outscored them 9 points to 1 the last 10 minutes after that sending off. So that was definitely the changing point in that game.
And even just before it, Laois were a bit wasteful. They could have opened out that gap to 3-4 points. Just missed some bad chances from in front of the goals, from what you call the scoring zone. And the red card then, as you said, just swung it back. And in fairness to Kerry, they took advantage of it.
Westmeath have been really frustrating. I suppose we were basing on some of the performance they put in the league, definitely against Limerick and Tipperary, and to be 0 wins from 2 now. I think a surprise for me now. I thought they'd be one of the, I suppose, 2 or 3 that will be contested, but you know, they have a tough game this weekend, travelling up to Down, and you know, it'll be a tough road back for them, I think, the way it started anyway.
Yeah, talking of value, Down are 4-1 there in that game, up at home against the Westmeath team who have 2 defeats out of 2, lacking confidence. Now the only thing is, Dahi Sands was a straight red card. I'm not sure if it was.
No, he was two yellows.
Two yellows. Yeah,
that makes a big difference because he's the main man. So yeah, that looks like if anyone wants to take an old punt the weekend, that looks like the value bet. Wexford 3-1 as well at home. It's a long time since Wexford 3-1 at home down Wexford Park. So Mark, you're tipping them. There's your chance to get a few bucks for the long weekend.
Show me the money. Yeah. But in fairness to Westmeath, guys, I think it was a better performance than against Kerry, where they hit 18 wide, squandered an awful lot of goal chances. The Offaly Westmeath game, they were in control up until Egerton's red card after 22 minutes. It was very topsy-turvy first quarter. I'd watched this on Clubber, and to be fair, that obviously Offaly finished very strong, but like Westmeath did respond. Like Killian Doyle had a few points, brought it back with about 7-8 minutes left, but I think in fairness to Barry Duigan 111, Burke with the late goal for Offaly, and look, I'd been critical of Offaly not finishing out games. By God, they did last Saturday when it was required. So look,
I think the thing about Westmeath, Mark, is the not having a spread of scores. Killian Doyle scored 15 points out of 120. You know, and David Ruairi got 1-1. So outside of them two, they only had 4 points from play. So that'd be what the worrying thing for me is only 6 scores in the game.
Yeah, no, spot on there, Kieran, to be fair. And look, Kerry as well, like, to be fair, Connor with 13 points for Kerry as well was, look at the wide count as well, even playing against the Breeze, like, you know, Kerry had 12 wides in that first half, like, so they really tightened up second half as well, which was very impressive. But I suppose, guys, can we get to the fixtures this weekend, like round 3? I mean, it's make or break for a few. I mean, look, Kerry, Laois, I suppose, Rory and Kieran, you're kind of hedging your bets on Laois, are you?
Yeah, Laois for me, yeah.
Yeah, like Meath versus Offaly. What can you say for Meath? Like, I mean, you know, a heavy trouncing last weekend. Now, in fairness, the game was in the melting pot up until 30th minute, and then Tor got the black card, and then all of a sudden, Laois go 11 points up at the break and say, that was it, good luck. But I mean, it doesn't get any easier this weekend, does it, Kieran? I mean, facing Offaly.
Offaly are fighting their own battle, trying to catch up, I suppose, with Laois and Kerry, and, you know, wins are crucial for them. So while Offaly have to travel, you still expect Offaly to win this. And, you know, it's very hard for me to come back from the 31-point defeat, and very hard to bounce back from that. And, you know, you have to tip Offaly in that one.
Yeah, sure, she'll have a greater insight and Meath, but one thing we spoke about before is underage. You see, like everyone again, Joe Laois will have a strong team competing and shove it up to Wexford or Kilkenny. Westmeath beat Kilkenny when you're in the under-20 championships. We remember, it's very hard to remember Meath underage, you know, having a team of strength that was rattling the bigger counties in Leinster. So you wonder what base are they working off? And to win the Christie Ring was probably a great achievement in the first place, but they just seem a bit out of their depth in Joe McDonagh for the minute. You know, taking a 31-point defeat does not help. And with Offaly coming to town as well, we know what talent Offaly have in terms of younger players coming through. Bad start here for Meath, and they could be facing another drubbing, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Down versus Westmeath, guys, I think you've alluded to it here. Westmeath is a bit of a banana skin fixture, 0 for 2. Don't want to be looking at a relegation battle. I suppose, Rory, where's the money going on here?
Yeah, I think Down are probably the most underrated team in the Joe McDonagh. Like they've been there for a good few years, especially also Division 2A. Like they're an established team at this grade, and went down to Kerry, as we saw, and put up a big performance for a long period of the game. Westmeath are struggling a bit. Like I just think that, like, if there's going to be a shock, this is the one. Like Westmeath get everything together again and put out their best performance to win this one, but you just wonder, like, where the heads at the minute. Will Down have an opportunity here to, you know, to throw their own names back in the mix as well by winning this one? Yeah,
Kieran, who are you tipping here?
Just, I suppose, the travel to Ballycradden would be a major disadvantage to Westmeath. Tough place to go and win. You know, as Rory said, if there's to be a shock, this is the one. I do think if Westmeath get the house in order, they're a better team. They've experience of playing top level teams, and that will stand to them. So I give a tip just to Westmeath, but I'd love to see Down win it. But I think Westmeath will be just a little bit too strong for them.
Perfect, guys. Yeah, I'll definitely go Laois, definitely go Offaly, and I will tip Westmeath only just though. I think that'll be a banana skin. So yeah, all good. Guys, lengthy one tonight. Many thanks. You can follow Kieran on Twitter on KCollins85 and Rory as well at Squelchy. is it, Rory? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that one right. On Twitter as well. You can follow me on Hawkeye Sidekick anyway. Guys, enjoy the weekend, and sure we'll chat next week. And hopefully we'll have Sir Sean to run the rule, particularly on Joe McDonagh, given his experience with the Meath team. Okay, guys, many thanks.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Sidekick on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.